Yeah.
And tonight we're making, like a Greek lasagna, and it's called Pastitio. And you can get it when you go to the Greek restaurants, and it's really yummy, and it's just something really good to make. So the first thing we're going to do is put 3 tablespoons of olive oil in the pan. And then we're going to put 1 chopped onion, 3 chopped cloves of garlic, which I've done already, so you won't have to listen to the food processor. I'm going to let that cook a minute. And then we're going to add to this a pound of hamburger meat and a pound of ground lamb.
Is that mixed together or separately?
Yeah, I purchased it separately, but in order to make things quick. And that's Reverend PJ you hear in the background. She's our camera person, our commentator, the person that keeps me in line. But I put it together on one plate in order to save time for this purpose. And we're going to let that cook. Now one of the tricks that I used when I'm cooking ground meat, in order to break it up, I use my potato masher to chop it up. It seems to do a more efficient job. Can you see me on the fridge camera?
Yep.
Okay. We're going to let that cook. Now, what goes on top of the pasticcio is what's called a bechamel sauce, which is just simply a white sauce with eggs. So I'm going to turn this on and let the pan get a little warm.
And are you turning it like a medium high? How do you make the pan?
In order to warm up the pan, I'm starting it almost at the top high.
Okay.
And then once this starts to sizzle, I'll turn it down a tad. So this is 4 tablespoons of butter or half a stick. So we'll let that, and remember we made a white sauce before, and any kind of a sauce that you make, to thicken it, you're going to use the equivalent amount of flour. Like if you use 4 tablespoons of butter, you're going to use 4 tablespoons of flour. It's always equal.
Right.
Depending on how much you want to make. I'm going to hop back and forth between the pans, just like you do at home. We'll let that sizzle a little bit. I'm going to crunch up the meat a little more. With my potato masher. I chopped the onions up in the food processor and the garlic along with it. Okay, back to the sauce. Okay. I'm going to turn the heat up on this a little bit so we can get that butter sizzling. Okay, and then here's my 4 tablespoons of flour.
So what's that supposed to look like? Can you tip that up to the camera so they
This-
can kind of see what that looks like a little bit? Okay, yeah.
You're just,
All right, it's a
you're
little
just
lumpy.
making a butter and flour roux.
Okay. Making a roux. Okay.
Mhm.
Very good. Thank you.
Which is the basis of all sorts of things. And just like you're using 4 tablespoons of butter, 4 tablespoons of flour, typically you're going to have the equal cups of liquid.
Oh.
So if you're just making a sauce for yourself at home, you and your husband, that's 1 cup of liquid, 1 tablespoon of flour, and 1 tablespoon of butter.
That is good to know. I'm always concerned about how to make a recipe larger or smaller.
Okay. Okay, it's getting thick. Can you see that? How it's thickening up?
Oh, yes. Good.
Now I'm going to turn it down a little bit so it doesn't scorch. And it calls for, the recipe calls, which you'll see it there on your Facebook page, 1.5 cups of milk. I'm going to use my whisk so it'll help eliminate the lumps.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Now I turn that down so it can cook on its own for a little bit. It start to thicken. And that was only 1.5 cups of, and you always want to use whole milk when you're cooking the milk, whether it's in baked goods or whatever. But once the milk becomes cooked, and whatever the process will be, if you use skim milk, then it turns to water and you don't get very many milk solids. So when cooking, you'll see that it always designates whole milk.
Okay. Very good. Oh, it's smelling good in here already.
Mhm.
Wow.
This is one of those dishes you don't want to cook while your company comes.
You don't?
No.
Why?
You want to do this ahead of time.
Gotcha.
Have it in the refrigerator because you have to give it your full attention.
Got it.
You know, one of the other cooking shows we did the Brazilian shrimp.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
So that's easy. You
Yeah.
can chop everything ahead of time and bam, 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 you're done. But you don't want to lose focus on what you're doing here. Even just being right here by it. Okay, we've got that cooking. Let's add that. It calls for 1 cup of heavy cream.
Oh, so you use whole milk and heavy cream.
Right.
Okay.
And we're going to let that cook and thicken up. See how easy? Can you see that? How easy this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Potato mash
It's on
is?
there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're watching it. So the lamb, does it come, I didn't know that you could buy ground lamb.
You can. They used to sell it over the counter at Central Market,
Uh-huh. Okay.
but now it comes packaged, and occasionally in other stores, especially in the spring,
Okay.
you'll find ground lamb when they put out the lamb chops and that sort of thing.
Okay.
And you can also find it frozen.
Oh, okay.
I found it at Trader Joe's once. I even found it at Aldi's once.
Okay. All right.
It's in this part of the country, lamb isn't as popular as up north. Okay, now it also calls for, how much yogurt is that? This is Greek style yogurt, and it's 2/3 of a cup.
Yeah.
So we're keeping on adding the liquid. Letting that thicken. And now into this, anytime you're cooking a sauce when it calls for tomatoes or tomato puree, I recommend this brand. It's called Cento.
Okay. Oh.
And the reason is like Hunt's and all that, it's kind of watery and thinned down.
Okay.
But up in the Northeast where a lot of Italians are, this is the only thing they use because it's real thick. I noticed that Costco started selling a brand with the San Lorenzo tomatoes, which are the thing in Italian cooking. I haven't opened it up yet, so I don't know. But
you
when you're
know that
making what they call the Sunday sauce or anything like this, you want to use this brand.
Okay.
Okay, there we have that. I'm gonna pop a little water in there. Didn't all come out. Okay, let's stir that in. Stir that up. Now, to this, we're gonna add some herbs. We have one tablespoon, cinnamon, salt and pepper, a pinch of Tony Chachere's Cajun seasoning.
Okay, all right, really?
I use that a lot. If you don't have that, use cayenne pepper. This is 1 teaspoon of dried oregano, about a teaspoon of thyme. If you have fresh thyme, use that. And that was the 3 tablespoons of olive oil. Okay, good to go. We're gonna put that on simmer and let it cook away.
Man, smelling great. Did you turn the fire off on the sauce?
I turned it down low because, on this one,
Yeah.
they're both on the lowest.
Okay.
I turned them on the lowest one because of hopping back and forth.
Okay.
Now, can you see how smooth that is?
Yes, it looks beautiful. Yeah.
Okay, and now, 1.5 cups of Parmesan cheese.
Well, there it is. That's what we're looking for.
And we're gonna let that cook. Oh, and in a bechamel sauce, it is tradition to use nutmeg.
Okay.
Even though you wouldn't think that something herby and spicy would call for it, but it's just that's part of what makes it a bechamel sauce.
Okay.
And now in here, 2 eggs. This is the tricky part. We're gonna, many of you may know what tempering the eggs is.
Oh, I
It's
don't.
when
I
you-
never heard that.
Okay, it's where you beat the eggs up and you take a little bit of the hot stuff, mix it up. That way when you put the eggs in the sauce,
Doesn't
they don't
curdle?
scramble.
Oh, scramble. Scramble. Look at that. Okay, never would have thought that. It's called tempering the eggs?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Huh. Yep.
Remembering, now have this bechamel sauce on the very lowest temperature
Okay.
because it's basically cooked. And we're going to get this cup I had prior,
Okay.
and we're going to mix it gently in with the scrambled eggs.
Okay.
That's gradually adding warmth to the eggs.
Okay. Huh.
And let's do one more. Okay, now we're going to mix this back into the pot.
Okay.
If I had put those eggs in there, they would have just scrambled on the spot. And you do this all very slowly. I'm going to turn the heat off now,
Okay. Okay.
because this is the delicate process.
Huh.
And now we're going to Need my cup back. We're going to take some of this sauce and put it in here
Oh. And why are we doing that?
because that's what the recipe called for.
Okay
Why?
then. Okay.
I don't know.
Okay then. All right. That's good enough. I thought we might be tempering the sauce in some way.
No,
Okay.
I don't know why they do it, but I follow the
There
recipe.
you go.
This was originally the Barefoot Contessa's recipe.
Oh, I've heard of her. Or
There
him,
we
or
have
whoever
it.
it
Now
was.
that's all turned off. Let's add a little salt and pepper. That's a big pinch of each. Okay, now, prior to the show, I boiled 3/4 of a pound of these seashell noodles.
Okay.
Can you see those, the little baby seashell noodles?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Because it would have taken up too much time. We're gonna mix that into the sauce.
Very good.
Let me just make sure that I don't overflow the pan first. I think 3/4 of a pound would be too much.
Okay.
I'm gonna get some more of this juice from the can. It's getting a little too thick. Now when I cooked the macaroni, I cooked it al dente.
Okay. Okay.
And I told you all before, that means to the teeth.
Okay.
That means you can bite and you can still feel a raw, hard place. That's because when you bake it, it's going to absorb the sauce and finish cooking it.
All right. That's looking really good. Wow. How many will that feed? How many people will that feed? How many
lot.
servings? Yeah. Yeah.
It will feed about 20.
Wow.
However, I'm going to store it in individual containers and freeze it
Excellent.
and send some home with PJ.
Send them home with PJ. PJ will take that. PJ will receive that.
Because I don't care how good it is, you can only eat so much
That's correct.
before you go. "Blah." Let's see, we need a little more Parmesan to decorate the top.
There's no such thing as too much Parmesan or garlic, in my opinion. But that's just me.
Okay. Now we're going to build up the You're in here somewhere. There they are. Now, we're going to fill the bottom half with this. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. We'll do another one.
Okay. Wow.
It looks to me like it may still be a little too dry. Let's go for another dab of water.
Okay.
Just saying. Because remember, the macaronis are going to absorb.
Right, right.
So it should be a little juicy. I'm going to put some in those too. Because once you get the sauce on top, you can't go back and pour the water in. Remember, cento.
Mm.
And now, got a little too much liquid in it, I think.
Okay, so it's a little less than soup. It's a little less than
Yes.
soup. Okay. Okay, you're layering it with that cream sauce, bechamel.
Because it has eggs in it, when it cooks, it puffs up.
Of course. Okay. Well, this just looks wonderful. I've never heard of it. I have a hard time even saying it. Greek pastitio.
Pastitio.
Pastitio. Pastitio.
Okay, and then you sprinkle a little of this Parmesan on top.
All right.
You can use the stuff in a can, but this is better. I have used on many occasions the stuff in the can.
Right. Oh, that looks terrific.
Okay. And now, let us see. I have a little one in the oven that I made and froze before. Let's bring it down here. Can you see it right there?
You have to put it, there you go, put it a little closer to the orange pan.
Okay, let me turn this off and move it. There it is.
There you go.
Can you
Yeah.
see that?
Yeah, that looks good.
Okay. Well, let's dip into it and see what it's going to look like.
I think
on
we
the
ought to do
plate.
it. I definitely think we should try it.
So let me get a little plate. Okay.
All right, I'm gonna come out front and see what we got here. Woo-hoo. Wow, nice and hot.
See?
Oh, it looks beautiful. Yeah, well, let me just make sure that that's turned on to that part.
Okay.
Hang on so I can see it on the plate. Okay, do that. We'll tip it up a little bit more towards it. There you go. That looks wonderful. Yeah.
And there you have it.
There it
That is Pastitio. So
All right.
next time you have company, you can just. Are you turned off?
No.
Okay, and that's it. PJ's telling you if it's good or bad.
Well, I'm telling you about. Oh my gosh. So good.
So if you can make spaghetti sauce, you can do this.
I can taste a look at the nutmeg. I see what's going on with the nutmeg.
Yeah. And also, a lot of times, you know, people here in Texas just put the ricotta cheese in there.
Oh.
But in a lot of Italian households, you'll make this bechamel sauce and put the ricotta in that. And spoon this between the layers. And lay your sausage or whatever you want, meatballs in between your lasagna noodles. So,
Do you use the ricotta in place of the heavy cream or just
No.
in addition to?
okay, in this I added Parmesan.
Oh, I see.
I would still keep, if I were doing a lasagna, I'd still do it just like I did it. Only I would add a cup of ricotta. Or
Gotcha.
2 cups, depending on how much lasagna I was making.
Mm.
And that's it.
All right, well, I would highly recommend you try this. It's delicious.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you
so-
so much.
And this is a sign off. We got us through the COVID. We kept our spiritual center on
Yeah.
screen to make things interesting for you. But this is the last show,
All right.
and I have loved doing this. And you can still catch me at church and ask me about a recipe.
Absolutely. And we will have one final Cooking with Honey Pat with a guest chef,
That's
Chef
right.
E, on I think March the 21st, whatever the fourth Wednesday of March. We will have Chef E, and she's going to be cooking. Well, her granddaughter calls it gravy, but it's actually beef steak, beef. I don't even know what you call it. Anyway, you'll find out. Just come.
Yeah,
It's really good.
I've eaten her food several times, and it is really
It's
good.
good. Beef tips. That's what she calls it, beef tips.
She is a caterer. She does this for a living.
She does, and it's really great. So you're going to want to turn into that one on the fourth Wednesday of March, and that will be our final time.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all for tuning
Yeah.
in. All right. Beautiful.